Chapter 1. Demonstration. A past. The old man initiated his own destruction with a long and mindful walk. The boy and girl had the old man's rhythm down, yet this did not protect them. Though they were serious students, the room was full of distractions. They could not always succeed in having eyes on worksheets when he came through a door. "Crystal, nothing you require is in the fish tank. Try your assignment. You need to learn those glyphs." The old man would call this over his shoulder as he left the room. Comments had to be brief, since it took only seconds to pass through the house. He would not delay the weaving. North to south, east to west, bottom to top, he spent the morning pacing the dry valley floor and climbing the rocky hill behind the house. Each time down the hill, he was through the kitchen into the main room before the screen door shut. "Free, those fire wheels would leave your worksheet less than ash. Get away from them." When the old man went out the front door, the children saw him through the window, walking straight past the piñon tree. Where the path came to the road, he would turn a precise 90 degrees without missing a step. Tall and cactus-thin, his pants, skin, hair, and broad-brimmed vaquero hat sharing colors with the desert, he blended in when any distance away. But his bright blue shirt with his red and yellow vest stood out as he swung his arms along like some brilliant bird flying low over the dusty road. After walking the specific distance along that road, he would spin on his heels, march back to the path, turn sharply once more, and make his way to the house, enter the front door, with or without comment, through the kitchen, out the back, and disappear up the hill. The distance he climbed up the hill, the distance from the hill to the road, and the distance along the road were as close to equal as could be managed. The slope of the hill was not a perfect vertical, but you work with what you have. It was a shabby house, and although it never needed paint, it looked as if it did. Only yesterday the boy had asked, why keep such great things in such a crummy place? The old man had looked around as if he had never seen the house before. Today, he thought, as he climbed, Free will see this home is good enough for great things, for a great teacher. Or he will need... The old man shuddered away an unbidden image. The boy knew not to be distracted by devices in the room, and might not have been except for the girl. Crystal was younger than Free, so less disciplined. The old man rarely allowed her to pass through this room, and never let her stay. Now she had the chance to examine objects usually glimpsed beyond a closing door. She noticed transparent spheres on the top shelf, each with a core like the sun, but the light stayed inside. How could that happen? And what was that long spiral chain with an impossible number of tiny bells on it? Best of all was the oak stick, the old man's staff with its leather cord, soft feathers fluttering in breezes through the window screens, carved glyphs painted in pretty colors, richly detailed, and so full of power. How could she ignore such wonders? The boy knew the girl was not yet ready for these things. Free had not been allowed into this room until he was 2 years older than Crystal was now. She should be studying in the kitchen, as he had at her age. Today, the old man wanted them both here, so here they were. Free could see how she longed to touch things. He felt sorry for her. He remembered how it had been when he, too, was just a kid. Enough time had passed. Both children turned to their work. The old man was down again, in the back door, through and out the front. Free watched him walk away, and then looked at Crystal. All right, he would show her something small and unimportant, but fun. He would need to activate it before the old man got back. The chain with bells was out of the question. The old man would hear no matter where he was in his walking. The tray with translucent colored tiles standing in slots was amazing, but took time to get it working, and could do nothing exciting before their teacher returned. What are the fire wheels? No, that was crazy. The old man was right about those. Bad enough to risk himself, but if the girl were hurt, Free would never hear the end of it. Fantastic objects occupied the upper shelves, but would be too hard to reach. Ah, on a bottom shelf, the black lacquer disc hanging in its golden frame, the anti-gong. Listen to this. Crystal said nothing because what she should have said and what she wanted to say were opposites. She watched as the boy, holding his pencil ever so carefully, gave the shiny black disc the smallest of taps. The disc's fascinating vibration produced absolutely no sound. The boy dropped his pencil on the table, and that made no sound either. The girl opened her mouth and tried to speak. The boy moved his lips, but was also silent. He clapped his hands, and so did she, but no clap was heard. Bubbles in the fish tank, buzzing wires on the second from the top shelf, and the always crackling fire wheels were silenced by the black disc. So was the wind, though the children felt the breeze. Distraction contracted their sense of time. When the old man had reached the house, his boots had fallen silently on creaky wooden steps. The screen door's rusty spring had not squeaked. He wasted no effort on speech. Without missing a step, he took the anti-gong and put it on a top shelf. Did his arm actually grow longer to reach it? Looking through the kitchen, the children saw, as he went onto the back porch, how hard he slammed the screen door. It made no sound. They both laughed silently at that. By the time he got back down the hill, the vibrations of the disc had stopped. As he walked through the house, his words inspired Free and Crystal's serious return to study. The old man took no break until he sent the children outside for their midday meal. They sat on the bench in the shadow of the piñón tree, their feet on soft, dry, fallen needles. "Do not wander off when you are through. I need you both." The old man did not eat with them the way he usually did. Instead, he took his rock hammer and safety goggles and went up the hill once more. They heard distant metallic whacks. When the old man came down, he carried a large rock. Soon the hammer could be heard inside. After each whack, the old man muttered a word. He came to the door. "Free, Crystal, come in." "I've not finished my orange," said Crystal. "Now." When the old man smiled or laughed, he looked as kind as could be, but when he was not smiling or laughing, he looked like a man who had never smiled in his life. Crystal did not finish her orange. The boy and girl came into the room and sat in hard seats, pencils and fresh paper laid at their places. 4 rocks sat upon the table. The old man had broken the big stone into these pieces. Any fragments had been swept away. "Count the rocks you see before you. When you are sure how many, write that number down in the middle of your paper. This is important. Be careful. Be certain." Counting 4 rocks did not seem a challenging task, but both children counted. The girl because the old man had said it was important, and she wanted to show him she could do things right. The boy because he had been with the old man long enough to know things were not as simple as they seemed. Each wrote the number 4. Imagine a shape with the rocks at the corners. Draw that shape on your paper so the number is in the middle. The children were used to taking instructions from the old man and knew to follow them exactly. Each drew a square around the number 4. "Fold your papers in half." They folded papers as the old man turned away, crossed the room in 5 steps, and took the staff from its peg on the wall. The children exchanged surprised glances while the old man held the staff, his eyes closed. They did not speak until his eyes opened again. He had explained to them often enough that wizards should not be disturbed during the moment when the staff is taken up. "Are you going to do magic?" asked the girl. "Do you want both of us to stay?" The boy was very much aware he had been 12 years old before the old man let him see the staff in use. The girl knew it too. "He decides if I am ready, not you." The old man spoke gently but firmly. Quiet. Children's voices stopped. Various objects continued to make their various sounds. The old man rested the end of the staff on the floor, took a ring from his vest pocket, and handed it to the boy. "Wear that on the thumb of your right hand." The ring was woven from brightly colored metal wires, their pattern so intricate it was difficult to see it all at once. The boy slid it onto his thumb. It fit perfectly. "And me?" asked the girl. The old man took down a small bottle from a shelf. "You hold onto this. Grip it tightly until I say to let it go." She took the bottle and clutched it as if she thought it might struggle to escape. "These rocks have names." The old man lifted the staff and held it over his shoulder, using it to indicate each rock in turn. "This one is Anansi. This one Brikru. Here are Coyote and Dalsina." The old man swung the staff, fluttering its feathers. His face twisted in pain, but it was the boy who let out a yelp. The girl frowned at him. The boy was suddenly pale, trembling, panting. His eyes were big and round, as if he had seen a ghost. She wondered what had happened. She'd never seen the staff used, but knew it would not do magic just because you swung it. Magic was more complicated. So why had Free yelled? The staff had not come near enough to hit him. Why did he look like that? The old man's face lost its pained expression. He was pointing the end of the staff at the boy. "What number have you written on your paper? What shape did you draw?" The boy seemed unable to answer. He looked at the floor and then up at the old man again, eyes still wide. The girl wondered what was wrong with him. At last the boy spoke. "5." Words came with difficulty. "Pentagram." The old man swung the staff toward the girl. "And you?" She looked at the rocks on the table, wondering what she had missed. The boy was almost always right. It was a fact in which they all took pride, yet which she sometimes found irritating. She saw only what she had seen before. Writing hidden on the folded paper committed her to her answer, but she saw no reason to change it. 4. I wrote the number 4 and drew a square around it. The boy stared at her as if she were crazy. Then he looked at the rocks on the table. "What the hell? What's going on?" The girl winced. She knew the old man would not tolerate such language. "What is going on, Free? Not what's. A wizard never slurs a syllable. Do you think I would be alive today if I lacked respect for is or for any verb of being? No contractions." The boy nodded his head. "I am sorry, sir." "Open your paper. Tell me again what you wrote." The boy unfolded his sheet and examined it. The girl began to wonder how long he could keep his eyes bugged out. She looked at his page and saw a square around the number 4. "He has the same thing I have." "Crystal, go outside now." She could tell from the old man's voice it would be wise to obey. "Do I take the bottle?" "Bottle? Oh, no. Give that to me." She handed the empty bottle to the old man. "Is Free okay?" The old man smiled. "He is fine. Now go outside and play. You have done enough work today." Once Crystal was well out into the front yard, the old man turned to the boy. The boy opened his mouth, but did not speak. The old man commanded, "Tell me what just happened." He's a good-looking kid, the old man thought. Free was almost 15. Though still a child, one could see the man coming along in him. He had his mother's coloration, but with the strong Native American features of his father. Always a graceful lad, he was now getting some muscle on him. His face was formed of fewer curves these days, more angles. He would be handsome. Still, with his eyes bugged out and his mouth hanging open, he looked as if he belonged in the fish tank. "Are you going to speak?" What the boy was going to say was, "Tell me what just happened," but the old man had already said that, so he closed his mouth. The old man adopted a richly confident tone. "All will be explained, but first you will describe to me everything you saw and everything you heard from the moment I called you into this room. You will include each detail. It is important. You can do this." His voice was so reassuring it calmed the boy, who could now talk. "We were eating. You called us into the house. When we came in, wait. Do not leave out anything. What did Crystal do when I called you in?" The boy considered. "She was eating an orange. She said she was not done yet. You said to come in anyway, so we did. She left the orange on the bench." He glanced out the window to the bench as he spoke of it. In the shade of the piñon, Crystal was finishing her fruit. Being the old man's apprentice, the boy had learned to attend to detail. "When we came in, you told us to sit. We did. Then you told us to count the rocks on the table. You said to be careful and get it right. I saw 5 rocks. I counted them. So did Crystal. We both wrote our answers on our papers. I was not cheating or anything, but she was right here. I could see she wrote a 5, just like I did." The old man, peering into the fish tank, indicated nothing, agreement or otherwise. "You told us to think of the shape the rocks made and draw that shape around the number on our paper. I drew a pentagram. So did Crystal. I remember noticing hers had a short side, but it did have 5 corners." Although his master appeared inattentive, the boy knew each word was being evaluated. "You told us to fold our papers in half. We did. Then you took your staff from the wall. When you opened your eyes, Crystal asked if you were going to do magic. You always told me kids her age were not ready for big magic like what you do with the staff, so I asked if you wanted both of us to be here. Crystal said it was up to you. I was going to explain she was too young, but you told us to be quiet. Then you told us the rocks had names." The old man raised his eyebrows, turned and looked. "No, wait. Before that, you took this ring out of your vest pocket." The boy held up his hand. "You told me to wear it on my right thumb. It felt solid and like it was too big for me, like it would fall off. When I put it on, though, it pulled tight, like it was made of elastic. Then it was hard again." The boy reached for the ring with his left hand. "Stop." The old man's tone was commanding. "Keep the ring on for now." "Okay." The boy noticed for the first time that the old man was wearing an identical ring on his left thumb. Was that because he was left-handed? "Go on." The old man's voice was calming again. "You said the rocks had names. The first one was Anansi, like the spider. The second had a strange name. I do not remember what it was. The third rock was called Coyote. The fourth was another hard name, but it started with a D. The second one had started with a B, so I remember thinking they were in alphabetical order. The name of the fifth rock sounded like a sneeze." "Eshu," said the old man. "Right. Are the names important?" The old man was looking back into the fish tank. The boy waited, but getting no response, continued his recollection. "Then you moved your staff, really complicated, like you were going to do a spell. You started chanting. I knew some of the words. I was mostly watching you, but I looked at Crystal, too. She was excited. She was going to see real magic. She is just a kid." The boy's voice quavered. "Why did you do that to her?" The boy waited for an answer, but the old man appeared only interested in fish. "Everything started to get kind of—" The boy was searching for a word. "Longer." The old man nodded his head. Or maybe he was watching a fish go up and down. Free could not be sure. "Everything was smeared out. It was hard to look at. I was worried about Crystal, but she was just happy to be seeing magic. It was happening to her, too. She was kind of stretched on her chair and strung back and forth to the doors. You were everywhere, but especially this wall of you through the room. It went out into the yard, thick along the path and road. Was that from the walking you did this morning?" The old man nodded for sure this time. After so much confusion, the boy felt good to have figured this out. "I heard sounds and voices, like you and Crystal and me all talking at once. I think I smelled food cooking. You touched the last rock with your staff, and you said its name, Eshu, really loud. You moved the staff like you were trying to pry the rock off the table. I thought something was going to happen to it, but what happened was to you. You exploded. Be specific. The boy closed his eyes, struggling to face the memory. It was like all the things in the room were connected to each other, and you were bending them by moving the rock with the staff, and the thick part of you between the doors held you so you could do it. He opened his eyes. I heard the loudest sound. It hurt, and I thought of the ante-gong. I looked for it on the bottom shelf where it was supposed to be, but I remembered you had moved it. It was gone, but kind of not. Did you try to hit the ante-gong? No. Too bad. Might have been interesting. Go on. The boy felt the old man was not taking this seriously enough. Everything was moving. You came apart into a bunch of pieces. Then all of a sudden, things were in one place again, not all stretched out. Everything was normal except you. Pieces of you were on the floor. I tried to find your head, but the pieces were torn so small I could not tell which was what. So much blood. The boy was trying to keep his voice steady, but the memory was too strong. Crystal was shouting. I told her to be quiet, but she would not stop. She was crying and running around. She was so scared. She had blood on her. I think we both did. She screamed you were dead. She said I had to do something, but I did not know what. I tried to think, to find anything I could use. It was horrible. I had to fix it, but what could I do? The old man shrugged. I ran into the kitchen, but Crystal screamed my name, and I came back in here. I grabbed her hands and pulled her out into the front yard. She was crying and shaking so hard. Then, without coming back through the door, I was in here again. And then the boy looked at the old man, who smiled and nodded encouragement. Then you asked me what I had put on my paper. You were standing in one piece, looking perfectly normal, with no blood anywhere. I could not believe it. It was hard for me to talk, but you sounded like it was important, so I told you I had written 5 rocks and drawn a pentagram. You asked Crystal what she had. She said 4 rocks and a square. She said it like nothing had happened. She was just sitting on her chair. She looked at me like I was the one who was crazy. You told me to unfold my paper and look at it. I had a square and the number 4, but that is not what I wrote. I wrote 5 and a pentagram. I know I did. You forgot the bottle. Bottle? Oh, yeah. When you gave me the ring to wear, you gave Crystal a bottle and told her to hold it. I forgot. So did I, said the old man. We have been through a rough experience. You did well remembering all that. Is Crystal going to be okay? Of course. Why would she be anything else? I mean, after seeing that stuff, she's just a kid. She will have nightmares. Crystal did not see anything. I did not explode. It was an illusion? No, said the old man. An illusion happens, even if only in your head. What you have is a false memory. You are remembering events you never experienced. You never saw me come apart. You did not see me cast a spell. You never saw 5 rocks, nor drew a pentagram. When you came into the room, the table held 4 rocks. You saw 4 rocks. You drew a square. The distinction between illusion and false memory was new to the boy, but not beyond his abilities. He spoke exactly. So, I remember seeing 5 rocks, but without a time when I even thought I saw 5 rocks. A grin spread across the old man's face. He had been worried if Free were ready, but now saw he was right to have had faith in the abilities of his pupil. Exactly. Tell me, what harm have I done to Crystal? None? The boy sounded uncertain. Right. No harm to her, because there never were 5 rocks, so no spell was cast against the 5th, and no wizard exploded to give her nightmares. "You and Crystal remember 4 rocks," said the boy, "and with my false memory, I am the only one who remembers 5. "Oh, I remember 5 rocks all right," said the old man. "I remember breaking the big rock into 5 pieces, and I remember naming them, and I remember casting the spell against Eshu, and I even remember how it felt being pulled apart." Here the old man shuddered. "If you and I both remember 5 rocks," said the boy, "and it is only Crystal who remembers 4, there really were 5 rocks, and she is the one with the false memory." The old man knocked his staff on the table. 4 rocks bounced. "Reality is not decided by majority vote." He held up his left thumb with the ring on it. "You and I share a false memory. There never were 5 rocks." "Then what is all this for?" "The first question is, how are you?" "Was this too much?" "No, I am fine." The boy made himself mean it. "I thought you would be. A good thing, too. You are going to study that spell I never cast until you understand it inside and out. You will spend years learning it. When you are ready, we are going to not cast it again, and this time you will be the one holding the staff." The old man smiled. It was the boy's turn to shudder. Later, when the old man went out to the yard, Crystal was using the bench under the piñon tree as a house for her dolls, or perhaps a school, or store, or temple. She did that often. The old man strolled over and sat on the doll's roof, which he often did. "What is Free doing?" the girl asked. "Studying. He has new things to learn." "Is he going to be okay?" "He is fine." "What happened to him?" Crystal's voice mixed concern and curiosity. The old man pulled a ring from his vest. This trinket gave him a false memory. It frightened him. He carefully replaced the ring into its pocket. "What is a false memory?" She was standing now, leaning against his knees. "It is when you remember a thing that never happened." "Why did you do that to Free?" "It was part of his lesson." "The bottle was nothing, just to shut me up, right?" The old man looked at her. Though difficult to be certain, Crystal might some day have the kind of looks that could get a woman into trouble. He was glad she had come under his care. Other possibilities existed. "That is right. The bottle was to shut you up." He tapped her gently on the nose with each of the last 3 words. "You figured that out because you are so sharp." "That is why you called me Crystal." "Too sharp for an Emily. Not to say an Emily cannot be intelligent, you understand. I am sure the world holds many fine Emilys. But not like me. No, not like you. I never met anyone quite like you. I know it is difficult, but you will not have to wait as long as Free. You will be learning real magic before you know it. Not this year, but soon." This was both satisfying and unsatisfactory for the girl, but pursuing the issue would be pointless. So why was I even in there? Perspective. Free and I had the same false memory. We needed someone to recall what really happened. Crystal nodded approval. "Good idea." She looked at the doll in her hand. "Did Free have another name when he came here, like me being Emily?" "He did. His parents gave him another. I am the one who called him Free." "Because he is free?" "No. So he will always remember he is not." "Why not?" "None of us is free. Not in the way his name suggests. It is a joke. One I can never tell you." Crystal would have to think about that, so she went back to playing. The old man looked toward the house and then into the desert. He enjoyed the breeze on his face until Crystal held a doll in front of him. One of its arms had come loose. The old man thought of things that could have gone horribly wrong today, but had not. Feeling not so old, he slid off the bench onto the ground and set to work repairing the doll. The girl has 7 dolls. The 8th doll notices, but does not think much of it. The 8th doll sees enough coincidences not to mistake them for important events. She likes coincidence, though. It adds sparkle to the universe. What she particularly likes is the expression on the boy's face as he looks at the table and sees 4 rocks. This makes her laugh. The 8th doll enjoys his expression forever. End of chapter 1.